Welcome to the Eco Inquiry Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Barron. I'm coming to you from the traditional territories, the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe. I'm on the Williams Treaty in Sutton, Ontario, close to the Chippewa of Georgina Island First Nation. Thank you for joining me. The Eco Inquiry Podcast Season 2 is set to inspire you in 2022. Season 2, Episode 2, is about birds. Let me just share my screen. The mission of Season 2 is to continue our work on promoting greater equity and inclusion in environmental and outdoor education. Worldwide, we admire birds for their freedom of flight and beauty in natural diversity. They are symbols of peace, freedom, and they bring us joy. They can be found in all seasons in the warmest and coldest habitats on Earth. How can you bring the joy of birds and bird watching into your in-person and online classroom? To enhance your listening experience, you may wish to open up the birds page on the Eco Inquiry website. That's www.ecoinquiry.ca and click on the birds page. The Bird Game and Virtual Choice Board includes resources to engage students in learning more about birds. It will spark students' natural inquiry into action projects that they can support students to help birds at school, home, and in their communities. You can make a copy and drop it into your Google Classroom. One of the SMARTY goals of Eco Inquiry is to promote equity and inclusivity in environmental and outdoor education. As many educators and students go back and forth between in-person and online learning, there are many ways that can be highly engaging in learning about birds and bird watching. When you click on the images on the choice board, you will get website addresses. To amplify the voice of Black STEM professionals and conservationists, the organization Black AF in STEM has organized Black Birders Week events and social media promotions. Let's take a look at their website. When you click on one of the pictures on the virtual choice board, it will take you here. This helps to inspire everyone to share the love of birding and the importance of Black, Indigenous, and racialized birders and conservationists. The virtual choice board includes links to Black Birders Week events. It also shows how to participate in community and citizen science projects. One of the community and citizen science projects that we can look at is the backyard bird count, which is happening in February. If you click on one of the pictures, you will get to the Cornell Lab website. And if you're online, your students may be having difficulty seeing birds. Normally, you may take them out in the schoolyard, but if you're online or in a hybrid situation, you can start the day with one of the feeder cams that are live. So let's take a look at the Ontario Feeder Watch Cam. When I open that up live, and I can put this right into my Google Classroom to start the day, I can see the Ontario Feeder Watch on the Cornell Lab. Let's click on play and see what happens. Now, this may not show up on the podcast, but we have little nuthatches, all different kinds of bird feeders. Just one little nuthatch so far today. Let's go back to one of the other choices and take a look at a different feeder watch camera and see what's happening here this morning. Again, we have all different kinds of bird feeders, and oh look, there's one of our favorite birds, most friendly birds, the chickadee. So students could watch these live bird feeders. Oh, and there's a lovely little woodpecker. And they could take part in some math activities, such as data, and doing tally counts for how many different kinds of birds and what sort of birds they see throughout a specified period, a 10-minute period, 15-minute period, taking a look at the camera. Oh, there's a lovely red-headed woodpecker. Okay, so let's go back to the choice board. There's all different kinds of things that students can do. When we go to the picture for the February backyard bird count, just let me pull this one up. in Birds Canada, it's a 4-day event that all sorts of people can take part in. So in the past, these were called citizen science events. And one of the first citizen science events ever organized was through the Audubon Society with the Christmas bird count. Now we refer to these to be more inclusive as community science events. The Great Backyard Bird Count is an annual 4-day event that engages bird enthusiasts of all ages from around the world in counting birds to create a real-time snapshot of where birds are. Anyone can participate, from beginners to experts. You can count for as little as 15 minutes on a single day, or as often as you would like. And there's all sorts of resources for children. The Great Backyard Bird Count is a joint program of Cornell Lab of Ornithology, where we just saw the live webcams, and Audubon with Canadian partners, Birds Canada. So if we head back to the choice board, there are all kinds of links to Birds Canada options for students to help you get. Let me just click on one of them. So if we take a look here, you'll see that you can click on your area and go to different programs that are in your province or territory. Okay, so let's head back to the choice board and move on to setting up the bird game in your schoolyard. For complete instructions, get the free download on teacherspayteachers.com. You'll see that there are 12 game signs that you can set up in your schoolyard, even if it's the most urban of schoolyards with asphalt. Take a look at some of the built environment. I use duct tape to tape up the game cards anywhere in your schoolyard. Now, of course, you have to put on the Morse code symbols. And again, you can find the how-to instructions in the book and also on the YouTube videos that you will find on the homepage of Eco Inquiry. For your online students, you can see the accommodation of the Eco Game card below with pre-populated Morse code symbols. You click on the image here in Morse code. You can also share this sound experience with your students after they've decoded the secret environmental message. So let's click on that and see what happens. It takes us to a Morse code page, and I'm going to play it, but it may be difficult for you to hear. For those of you that are listening to this podcast, you may have been able to hear those series of dots and dashes, but I do encourage you to go over to the birds page on the Eco Inquiry website, listen to the message in Morse code, and see what the secret environmental message is. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You can take that step on your own. The provocations from the inside of the Eco Inquiry game card are things that can support your students in doing more investigation and deeper environmental inquiry. So they are fatal light attraction, habitat loss, and house cats. Yes, when big buildings keep their lights on at night, that confuses birds when they're migrating, and they can actually slam into the windows and unfortunately perish. So we could encourage our students to go to the FLAP website, which is on the choice board, and they could do some advocacy work to encourage businesses to turn off their lights. We also need to work on conserving natural habitats for birds, and of course, putting a little bell on your house cat when it goes outside, or if it goes outside, perhaps because it's a house cat, it could stay inside. That can help prevent the loss and the death of millions and millions of birds. The Eco Inquiry playlist on YouTube has over 40 videos to spark students' natural curiosity and to help you bring the outdoors into your classroom, whether in person, online, or a hybrid blend. There are short videos in which students will see pileated woodpeckers and birds at the bird feeder, as well as birds on the river by my house. Of course, there are picture books as well at the end of every page to support you in finding more resources for your students. Two books I highly recommend are Bird Count by Susan Edwards Richmond and illustrated by Stephanie Pfizer Coleman. In this book, the protagonist Ava and her mother take part in the longest running community and citizen science project, the Audubon Christmas Bird Count. Ava uses a tally chart method to track her bird sightings, which is an excellent math connection. The book is filled with scientific information about bird habitats and messages of conservation. The second book is Birds by Carmi Lemniskatis. She writes, "Because birds are like good news coming, or messages of peace." This book is beautifully illustrated and focuses on the natural diversity of birds. It helps us to connect with the freedom and peace birds so often represent to people. So a couple of things that you could try right now is you could download the bird choice board and make a copy. And then you can change the Bitmoji if you wish, or change the links to the pictures and put it right into your own Google Classroom. You can also, when you click on that image, you're going to find a Google slide with some really quick instructions. You could download the bird game in the Eco Games manual. That's a free download on Teachers Pay Teachers. Like I said, you can put the choice board straight into your Google Classroom. And now there is a pre-populated game card for the bird game with Morse code so that your online students can take part in decoding the secret message. And there's also a link to the Morse code message website where they can audibly hear that message. So thank you for listening to Season 2, Episode 2 on birds. I hope this gives you many, many wonderful ideas. There are also on the choice board, there are craft ideas for kids to make bird feeders out of recycled materials from home. And this will encourage them to set up a bird feeder outside the window, or for them to go outside and take a look at birds if you're doing online learning. So I hope that this podcast has helped you in encouraging your students to become birders, and also to help you engage your students in learning at school, online, or a mix of both. Thank you so much for listening to the Eco Inquiry Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2, Birds.